You? I was blaming Kevin.
Look at that.
Okay.
Good. All right, then let's call this, what are we on? December 11th, 2023 meeting to order. It is 7:50. A little late. Do we have any amendments to the agenda for tonight? No, if not, we don't have any minutes to approve tonight, or we'll do those next meeting. So we'll move on to public comments on items not on the agenda. And I believe we're missing our table. We're missing our table and our microphone.
We didn't get mine. Yeah.
Yeah, we can do that.
Yeah. You take my mic if you want. I won't talk.
I take it out.
Yeah, you can take.
Still drunk. Oh, micro.
No. And who are you, sir?
I don't know how we don't.
Yep.
Okay. Ben Fry, chair of the planning board. So, I just wanted to make it abundantly clear that based on the results of this special town meeting we just had, we now have a gaping hole in the middle of the ordinance, the core zoning code, that someone will take advantage of. So the planning board will be, in conjunction with the town planner, working to produce another set of recommendations to bring it to the town to close the plug. So,
yep.
Unfortunately, I feel like, there was some misunderstanding and this classic example, I think, of cutting off your nose to spite your face. But regardless of that, the truth on the ground is that we will receive an application that attempts to take advantage of something that will result in exactly the type of development those here were not in favor of. So that's an unfortunate reality that I think a lot of people maybe didn't understand. So we will continue to press the matter so that we can close that hole for the benefit of the town.
I think we had a few people who wanted to.
So my name is Wanda Wilcox, and I've just been kind of looking over the past agendas and a few of the minutes and stuff. And I have a real concern that there are people who want to put a weight limit on the North Newcastle Road, other than when it's posted for in the spring. Because I have a concern because I live on the other side of the North Newcastle Road, and anybody who needs to get gravel and stuff to me, because I live by Crooker's Pit, but still there's other stuff that it just seems like that's a public way. I don't see any reason that there should be any extra special limits on that road then. So I know nothing has been come of that, but I just want it noted that I'm totally not in favor, and hopefully if something else comes up, I will be here to address it.
Mr. Carey.
I'd like to follow up on the meeting of the 13th of November. Had an info request about the status of 2024 proposed work on the east part of Hassan Avenue. And this, my presumption of it being on the work list was because of a statement made to me back in 22 by the prior town manager, prior. And is the work plan for all roads something that is available to the board and to citizens for the coming season? Thank you.
Mel, we do have the roads that we're going to be attended to as part of the budget. We have that list, but I think we're in the process of trying to figure out how to get a nice work plan together. So we will absolutely share that with you when we have more detail than just our budget.
Thank you.
I think, oh, behind you. Yep.
I'm Roger Wilcox from Newcastle, and I also would like to address the North Newcastle. You know, it seems to me that it puts a big burden on commerce out there that people want to receive deliveries or deliveries that have to be made in the other end of town. If there was a good reason to post the North Newcastle Road, like the Lynch Road, it's got a bad bridge. I drive around there all day long, glad to do it. But I don't see any reason why trucks can't use the North Newcastle Road. There's no gravel pit on either end. There's no warehouse. There's no lumber mill. There's no reason for a truck to go down there, except that he needs to make a delivery in one way or the other. He's either coming to North Newcastle or he's going to Sheepshead. And the alternative to get out of there, if you can't use the North Newcastle Road, is to go all the way to Head Tide and Alma, because you can't use the Dock Road, because that also has a bad bridge. So you have to go all the way to the Alma and take a left on 218 down to take the Sheepshead cutoff to get into Sheepshead. And the other way is to go all the way in town Newcastle, up the southbound Route 1 ramp, down past the Dodge dealer and up the Sheepshead Road to get sheep. So it seems like a big burden. And just because you don't like trucks is not a good reason to post the road. I mean, if people really don't like traffic and they don't like trucks, maybe they should go live in a gated community so they can regulate the traffic. Because I thought we talked about this when we voted that parking and ordinance in, and we said, well, at that time, we didn't see any reason why they won't post it. So I guess that's what I have to say about that. So, and the other thing, Ben, is my own ignorance. I wasn't informed enough on these ordinances, and it's going to close a loophole, and that's my bad,
We'll bring it back.
and I need to get more educated, and I guess maybe coming here or coming to your meetings or somewhere to learn about this before we bring it back again, so that people can really understand. I had people calling me saying, what's the deal with this? What's this mean? What's it? And I said, I can't really tell you, so that's the bad thing, is if you don't come to all these meetings and learn about this stuff, you don't really know. And the explanations here didn't seem to, sway it one way or the other, I guess. So,
And it's super hard to just read that language and fully understand everything too.
Yeah.
So that's why that's another reason for having it broken up instead of doing it all at once, is we can focus on understanding just little pieces of it at a time too. And sometimes we don't understand the little pieces even because they're complicated.
Yeah, you need more education, and that's my bad.
I got a public comment not on the agenda.
You have a public
Yeah,
comment?
I have a public comment. Hold on, I'm gonna go to this.
Oh, okay. You're going to go around.
Oh, boy. Bad precedent set.
Well, I'm going over here.
Sir, could you state your name and residence?
Citizen Lend setting a bad precedent, but I just wanted to say I've been doing this for almost 9 years now, and there is a reoccurring theme that when we bring things to the public, sometimes it's construed that there's a master plan that we've been trying to hatch, whether it's the select board or the planning board or anybody. And the time I've been on the board, I've worked with some of the best people that I've ever had the pleasure of working with. And it doesn't mean that we all have the right ideas, but we are all open to explaining and understanding. And that's the kind of back and forth dialogue that's really helpful. Just what you said, Roger, just trying to educate people, and some of these issues are kind of tricky to explain, but I think it's again sort of coming into it with an open mind to try and gain understanding as to what it is that we're actually discussing. I think it's just an important thing, and it's important for all of us. So anyway, that.
If I could add just one more thing, I'm not at all surprised that it's confusing. The planning board had 2 meetings on this stuff, and then a public public hearing. And even at the public hearing, even after we drafted the language, we still had a lot of good discussion, and it was still confusing then. So that's 6 hours of time for the planning board. Plus all the time to review it. So for folks to walk in here, not having had the benefit of all that time, it's not, it's hard to understand. It's complicated stuff. I get it.
I go.
Yeah.
At this juncture, I am a resident of Newcastle, so I guess I can. Kevin Sutherland, 3 Pond Road. I just wanted to point out, I did try to hand out copies of our policies and ordinances that we're going to work to review. So I hope residents see that, look, we have a sort of a timeline to try to address these things. And I had asked the select board, and they're supportive of this, trying to do these special town meetings 3 times a year. In March, in June for the big one, and hopefully the contentious items, that's when we address those. But I didn't think tonight's items were going to be that contentious. Unfortunately, some misinformation out there led to that. But what I hope people do is see, we are trying to address these things. If you're interested in any of them and want to participate in helping review them and make comments about what they say and what they mean for Newcastle, please. It is a confusing Gantt chart. Joel has told me that before, but you're welcome to come visit me in the office, and I can have a conversation about when we're looking to address these things and bring them to the select board. And ultimately, those ordinances that need to come before town meeting will hopefully come at these times.
So I'm still Wanda Wilcox of North Newcastle. And I would just like to say, in the last few days, knowing that this special meeting was coming up and some other things were coming up, Roger and I was talking about coming, and we were on the YouTube or whatever, trying to listen to this, and we had a hard time getting the volume on some of it. So I think there might be some glitches. So you may already be aware of that, but just FYI.
We have to have our microphones like right here.
Oh, and maybe that's it.
Yeah.
And maybe that's it. But we could see you all lovely, but you just couldn't.
Nobody's as loudmouth as me.
Thank you. We have to be more mindful of that. They don't pick up at a big range. One more. Yes, sir. Good. Oh, one more microphone.
Address the North Newcastle Road. I'm Kevin Burney, 72 North Newcastle Road. I was wondering why the load limits were lifted off that road.
From what I understand, it was the limits were put on there when the road was in really bad shape. And the concern was that it was going to deteriorate further and become a safety issue. And I think because now that it's been repaved, there's no need. That's my understanding.
That was a bad road many years ago.
I didn't know if I
As
could-
you know,
I could hear from the chair why the load limit was lifted off the road.
that is the fact.
No,
That they were lifted because they were unenforceable because we didn't have an ordinance. And so that's what we've put together as an ordinance to try to deal with the weight limits.
2 years ago at the town meeting, the town of Newcastle stood up, the town of Newcastle Road Commissioner stood up and said why they took them off, because one end was 30 ton, the other end was 20 ton.
Yep, there was an
Is that right?
inconsistency.
Am I saying that right?
I cannot recall this exact specifics, but I do remember that there were different opinions on both ends of the road. Yes.
Did any of you board members remember that at all?
I do remember that conversation, Kevin. Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
okay. That's what the Newcastle Road Commissioner said, okay? So which end had the 30 ton on it? Do you know? You
do-
board people?
I don't know. No, I don't know.
No,
No.
no.
I think the sheepskin end had the 30.
Yeah.
Cow
You,
corner and had the 20 ton. Is my recollection, just from driving. I wasn't on. the board.
which end was it now?
The end that Mal lives on, your end was 20 ton, I believe. And the sheepskin end was 30 ton.
So
That's my recollection.
I see. And so did the Newcastle Road Commissioner come to you or someone and say this was mismarked? And then you guys had a meeting on it for him to lift it? Cause he said he took them off.
It was never, so. Not to get into the
Well, I just
details,
want,
but I'll
I
get
just
into.
want the facts.
Oh, so this is the fact. Fact is that the road was never legally posted. So there were some signs up. You can put signs up that say
Any-
10 miles an hour. If they're not legally enforceable, they're not legally enforceable. You know that a sign is a sign.
No, I understand that.
And so there was a sign, there were signs that were up. I'm not debating that. The signs didn't match up. You're not debating that. It shows that they weren't legally posted, because if they were legally posted, they probably would match on either end of the road, because it would make sense if it's a through road to have it match on both ends, I think, right?
Yeah.
And so they were taken down because there was no rhyme or reason to why they were up.
Oh, I've lived on this North
So.
Newcastle Road for 50 years.
But
And
we,
so we've been through, I think, 5 road commissioners.
Yeah.
And this last road commissioner seems to have an issue with it. The other 4 did not. So it's been a long time.
yeah, maybe it was my fault. I don't know. I mean, I've been on the board for the last 9 years, so you could probably blame me too. But
No, I just wondering, because you guys didn't have a meeting, he lifted them off, and seems so you guys should have a meeting or something.
no, it wasn't anything.
verify it.
That's what I'm trying to explain, Kevin, is that there was never a legal posting on that road. So there was no board action because there didn't need to be, but we now have a way to do it. We now have a legal roads ordinance. And so we're gonna research what parameters a road should go under to have a weight restriction on it, a permanent weight restriction on it. And that's
Yep.
that's what so that we won't have this issue again. That's the idea.
Yeah, but you don't know which end that 30-ton was on then.
I don't know a lot
Nope.
of things. I mean,
Nope.
it's not, I don't know
Nope.
everything about the town. I'm just one
Nope.
of the 5, and maybe I'm not even a very good one. I don't know.
No,
Kevin,
no,
the
that's all I
suspense,
needed to know.
Kevin, which end is it? Suspense is going.
Yeah.
What's that?
Which end is
Which
it?
end is it? Do you know?
What do I know?
Do you know?
I don't,
What do I know?
who has the right answer?
Mic drop.
Okay. All right, then if there are no more public comments, we will move on to 5A, new business farm space classification removal penalty. Let's see here, we have a request.
Well, no, so our assessor's agent is bringing this to
Yes.
the assessors. What you have is a parcel that is being removed from the farm space.
Mhm.
And because of that, they basically have to pay past taxes and what's considered, it's called a penalty. It's not really a penalty. It's just, they got to pay past taxes.
Mhm.
And since you are the Board of Assessors, I have a document that Jim prepared for you to sign.
Mhm.
So I'll just ask for you to approve this and then sign it so we can get some more money.
And that's what's here, right? Yeah.
That's what's here, yes. I actually remembered to print the things out that I need you to sign this time, so.
It's good.
And I know it's not public comment, but can I make a comment about this, only because this involves me?
I know it does, yeah.
Oh, sorry.
No, that's okay.
Yeah.
That's okay. This happened back.
Thank you, Michael.
This all happened back quite a few years ago. My mother owned a substantial piece of property out in North Newcastle. She actually, as she aged, my father passed, she sold the house and 11 acres of field. When that happened, probably 5 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, at that point, all of that land probably should have been taken out of farm, because at that point we barely met the minimum of the 5 acres. And it's just come to light since the passing and splitting up some stuff in it. And that parcel landed with me. And I was talking to Jim and he was struggling with it too, because it's like he was all confused as to, because the part that my mother sold was out of the middle of it. So it kind of confused things. So it involves me. So take it easy on me is all I'm saying. I was honest. I went to him and said, I know there's a problem here. So anyway, but that's how it happened. So by rights, it should have been taken care of years ago when that was sold. It should have been caught by the town. not
Uh-oh.
pointing fingers, but it should have been caught. Because at that point, it shouldn't have been farmland. So, we're just trying to rectify an error that was made
How many years ago?
at
was
my
that?
cost.
How many years ago was that?
You want to know, it was probably 4 years, 3 months. No.
Oh,
Oh.
still my fault though. That's good. As long as it's still my fault. Yeah.
I was,
Anyway, it was just an error that.
Yeah.
well, and I was just curious as to where the property was. So I was looking, not knowing it was yours. I was just looking on the map, but I couldn't find, I could only find the one that ends with 49, not the 51 C and D or something. Are they all part of 51
Yeah,
A?
when you, the corner of North Newcastle
Yeah.
Road, that kind of starts it, and it goes all the way to. Oxford.
Okay. Oh, yeah, on that
And
side
then
of the road.
the
Okay.
house is, 8 feet. Oh, that side of that.
You're keeping the end near Oxbow, right?
Yeah,
Oh, good,
that's not going in.
good. All
I'm-
right. Let's see then.
Assess
We
the farm
accept
space.
The farm space withdrawal
Yeah.
penalty is recommended and presented by the assessor's agent, Jim Murphy. Okay, you move that,
Second.
seconded by Tor. Any other discussion? All right, all in favor? Passes 5-0. Excellent, good job. All right, then, new business 5B, fireworks ordinance. All right. This looked like just some pretty easy reformatting and
Yep.
cleanup.
Nothing
Nothing.
substantial. Just a little bit of clarity
Um,
and trying to do consistency in how it looks. So eventually when you click on our ordinances, they all look the same.
Let's see. I just trying to read the red line one was hard, so the other one was much easier.
I cut out the whereases, they're not relevant to this at this point. And I cut and pasted things into different locations. That's why a lot of that red line is there.
Okay,
But as you can see, there's just H's in a different location.
I did the cut and paste is awesome, except sometimes we have dangling little things, so I have a couple little things just you can clean up. Under hold on. Nope, these are periods and such. Sorry, I was looking at the first one to start with. It was an odd E somewhere. And there's some weird, okay, just under consumer fireworks, under
Mhm.
3 definitions. There's a couple periods in there that I think should either be commas or just gone. Because that's pretty much one sentence all the way down to chapter 47, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, there's 3 periods in there that need to be removed
Okay.
just to make it flow a little bit better.
Okay.
Um, No, I can't find it. And there's an E that doesn't belong, just an odd E standing somewhere. I can find it and let you know later.
Sure.
again. So that was it. I did have a question. It's required under 5 exception. It says the Newcastle Fire Chief shall inspect the proposed display site at the time of the inspection conducted by a representative of the Maine Public Safety Department. This is for public display.
Correct.
So the Maine State Public Safety Department always does an inspection and we're sending the fire chief in addition? Is that what that's saying? Am I reading that correctly? Do we
That's
know?
how I would interpret that. Yeah.
I mean, we don't, when's the last time we had a public fireworks display in Newcastle? Did the Lincoln Home do one in the last few years? I don't even know.
No.
No,
I can look into that.
the only thing I wasn't sure if that meant that somebody from the state always does one and then we send the fire chief as well.
So we don't get to put a time on that. Like,
Oh, it
not-
needs to be
not
done
past a
before
certain-
hour.
I'm just getting old.
And your mac and cheese is getting cold. and all that.
Did anyone else have anything in this that they were concerned with or wanted to look more at, or Ben, your name's not in here anywhere, so
Not the neutral.
Yes, sir.
You guys are holding public.
Um. State something. I have separated out on our website, general ordinances from land use ordinances. Fireworks ordinance is a general ordinance and the select board will handle the public hearings related to.
Well, if we're not changing much of anything on this,
No. There's some periods,
right?
location of, so it flows better.
Right.
That's about it.
So we have to have a public hearing on this?
Yep.
Just to change it? Okay.
Anytime you touch the ordinance.
Okay.
Are we coming up with a date tonight or is that gonna be up to the town manager?
I was going to see what you wanted to say about this. What did I write? Before bringing forward another round of conversation and a request to schedule here. No, I'm not asking you to do anything tonight with it.
Okay.
What I'll do is clean up what, council or select board chair Paz has suggested, and I will bring you a copy that then we'll set a public hearing. Remember, I'm trying to bring new items, so
Yep.
you see them, have a chance to respond to them, and then I bring you the better version that goes into the new business for voting. Or into unfinished business for voting.
Ben, it may not seem like it, but it was 2012, I think. Was this from 2012? That long ago, maybe? Yep. All right, new business 5C is reserve account review. This is valuable.
We haven't had this one enough.
No, and that's I don't think you've ever had
No.
this.
Probably not. Not in
This
this
is new.
detail.
We developed, I want to give a shout out to Michelle Cameron, our treasurer, for helping me figure out what this might look like and how we can monitor it going forward. The number that's available that shows up in there is our balance as of June 30th, 2021 from the audit. From there, we're tracking expenditures and monies that are put in at the town meeting. Or monies that are put in the case of the Alewives, which I just have up here, is the receivable from after the sale of fish and expenses are covered. This has a substantial amount of money available for big capital projects there, so that's kind of nice that you have that available. I could just run through them. Your building reserve has a lot of expenses in there in the past couple of years. So it,
I would like to discuss some of these.
yeah, and so one of the other, we tried to also find the date that these were funded. And we also tried to find language about how their intention is the intention of the fund is, and sort of how expenses from this should be administered or monitored. Looking through building, to me, I assumed municipal building expenditures would be tied to, gotta put the new roof on it at some point. We're saving the money to do it, or the boiler goes, we're gonna pay for a new boiler out of this account. I do see some expenses that we've identified in here or were paid essentially out of this account that might not meet that threshold. So I want to clarify that going forward.
Can we clarify it going backward a little bit too?
You
Some
mean
of
you
these
want me to
need to
take
be-
the money, take the money out of there?
Untake it out, yeah. No, reimburse it. Some of the things that are charged to this weren't supposed to be. Like the reserve mechanical heat pump here and in the town office were our ARPA funds.
Part of it was ARPA funds. There's notes on that. Some of it was covered out of this and some of it was covered out of ARPA.
Yep. But pretty much the whole thing for here, we had 25,000 of ARPA funds for this building for that. And we had 15,000, I believe, for the town office, ARPA funds for the heat pumps and such there,
15 out of
the ARPA,
for here.
25 for
25.
here. And 15 for See if I've got that open. I had it open earlier, that ARPA document. I think I do now. I'll have to pull it up again. And then there are just some, I guess this is, it's hard to plan for some of these things, but we do have repair lines in the fire station, in the Sheepscot Fire Station, Harriet Bird. Some of these things perhaps should be charged to the repair,
Operating
those-
budget.
because there's a line item for it within.
So
Those-
that's the conversation about the policy of these funds are more, better defined at the top. So this says, just says, the purpose says fund municipal building expenditures. So I'd like to clarify what that is, and it doesn't have to be tonight, but just as maybe even part of the budget process, we do a little exercise on making sure we're clear about what these funds are intended
Right.
for. And then it's about understanding that, operating budget is spent first before money comes out of these funds for things like, a maintenance call or a replacement if we can afford it within the operating budget.
Right.
Before it comes out of the reserve funds. So I just, having that in policy form or process form is beneficial to me to make sure that this sort of thing doesn't happen.
Was our discussion not at budget time, not the fact that we wanted this to be, or what are we gonna do with our we have to spend money when we don't have it budgeted, when we have repairs.
Right.
But other than that, we were trying to use this more for, what are we gonna do for a town office building going forward?
I think
Well-
the idea between for the buildings. So there's general maintenance, cleaning our heat pumps,
Yep.
cleaning our boilers, maintaining all these different things, those type of things that we sort of plan for.
Yep.
Annually, the
Budget item.
idea was to have that be a separate thing, the reserve, putting things in reserve accounts. Rather than just creating a very large slush fund for, the arguments made like, oh, well, if a boiler goes out, then we have the money to replace the
Right.
boiler. Which is a good idea in some ways. The other way is that if that's an emergency item, we could spend the money and then ask the voters for the money afterwards.
Right.
And that's not the worst
To
thing in
move
the
it,
world.
right.
You know what I mean? We shouldn't be looking at keeping this reserve account high just because of whatever. I think the purpose of this should be, we want to paint the outside of the town office, and we got a couple of quotes. We got a ballpark quote for, $15,000. So we're gonna to fund that in our budget, we're gonna put $15,000 for that. We're gonna put $15,000 for all these other projects, have them.
In the
Mark
budget, not
as to
the
where they
reserve.
are.
Yeah.
No, but it would go into the reserve. It would go into the reserve because again, some of these projects might not happen within the fiscal year.
Okay.
That's the problem. If we just throw it into the general fund, it gets rolled into the general fund. So if the idea is like, oh, we have this amount of work that we want to have done on the town building, there earmarked for that, but it should get used for that. That's the kind of idea, not just like a slush fund where it's like, I don't really know where to take this out of. Let's buy some office furniture.
So my opinion on this is we shouldn't have a buildings reserve fund at all.
Well, we had talked about using this to perhaps have some money to figure out what to do for, if we need to.
Well,
expand the
that'd be
town
something
office or move-
different, I think, and it wouldn't be called the buildings reserve fund, but I think, if you look at this list, everything in here is not an emergency. It can be planned, nothing, office furniture.
Yep.
That's things that you can anticipate having to spend money on a year in advance or 6 months in advance. So I think those things we should budget for in our budget cycles and then buy it the next year, get quotes if it's over our, whatever our bid ordinance says now, then we'd have to solicit bids on it or go out and get competitive pricing, whatever. But I mean, nothing in here was a wholly like, oh Jesus, we need this money right now. This is all stuff that you can plan out, at least 6 months ahead of time. So to have a slush fund to just kind of be sloppy with how we spend money doesn't, to me, seem fiscally responsible.
I don't see it as a slush fund to have a reserve account like this. I see it as long as it's marked out like this, where again, we're gonna set aside $10,000 to do this project.
Yeah.
Well, we don't know that we have the money. We don't know we have voter approval until July, basically. And then we have to go out and get some actual pricing on things. If we do have to go out to bid on it, we gotta go out to bid and go through that whole process. And if we're painting the outside of the town office and you want to find a painter who can paint the outside of the town office between July and December, good luck. So it's gonna be into the next year and you're gonna be basically planning for the next season at that point. This is the way it works. So I think it's not bad to have, these larger projects that are like, we got to replace a garage door in the fire station. So we know how much that's roughly going to cost. We have that money earmarked for it. Kevin, gets the everything arranged and it comes in at the price and it's great.
So this goes back to my idea that we should have some kind of building facilities, some kind of list of things that we want to do. And these things go into a list, like we talked about painting the firehouse inside. And so I think we should get that's on a list and, we check off these things on the list, and then we go out, get an estimate of how much that's going to cost, and then build that into next year's budget. And then when we go to town meeting, it is either, a cost that we're going to put into that facility, and that's again, I think we should break out facilities into a whole separate department, not have, say, for example, this building and the town office and the Sheepscot River,
All separate.
They should all be, well, they should all be, right now, this building is underneath the life safety department.
Right.
I think this should be in town facilities department, including the town office and the Sheepscot Firehouse. So those are facilities that we have to raise money for to do repairs. So I think we have some work to do on. My personal opinion is to create a facilities department, put all of these facilities into one place. And then in town meeting, we say, we'd like to raise $50,000 a year to do this on our checklist, which is paint the inside of the firehouse, do upgrades to the heating system in the Sheepscot River Firehouse, Sheepscot Village Firehouse, do this to the town office, and have that ahead of time, and not say, hey, can we have $50,000 in reserve this year
To do stuff.
We're just going to do stuff, and we're
No,
gonna
definitely.
go out and we're gonna get pricing. Trust us, we're gonna get good pricing on this. I think we have to be proactive. But
Well, and we have more money in here than it looks. If you go down under the top grouping from 21, the balance is 67,900, and then we need to add 50,000 to it instead of just running 50,000 over there. So we actually have an extra $67,000 in here.
Where?
I'm sorry, where are you looking?
Unless I'm crazy, which is entirely possible.
Well, she did,
Here.
unfortunately, did
That's-
two lines.
We had 67 is the balance, and then we add 50 in. So it should be
Oh, it
those
should've-
together.
Yeah, that's a
Yep.
glitch in the.
It's 117,
Yep.
so, okay.
Plus, can we then credit ARPA money into here or take these out? and move them?
I'll talk, I wrote it down. I'll talk
Okay.
to,
Mhm.
yeah, you're right. There's a little glitch there that I didn't catch. Sorry.
It's always good to have more money. It's bad
It
when
is
it's
good to have
less
more
money.
money. Make sure, can you find some more?
I'll try.
Okay.
Need some more.
I want to jump to computer reserve fund. Did have two computers. All of our computers are in the office. The desktops are about 8 years old. So, and unfortunately, they were all bought at the same time. So they're starting to go. So I'm really glad to have this. And I assume this is what the intent of this reserve account was to do,
Mhm.
pay for
Yep.
new computers.
Yes.
We're up to 100,000 in our fire truck reserve,
That one's easy.
fringe benefit reserve. This is for essentially retirement or when people leave and still have accruals. This is where we've been paying this out of. This account has about 17,000 in it. But you know, no. Harriet Bird Playground Reserve has about $18,000 in it. And, you know, some of these I couldn't find any dates about creation, and so that's I think, as not asking you to solve it tonight, but I'd like to think about the purpose of these and clarifying that maybe as part of the budget process. Revaluation, this one is, I think we received the bill this year to take care of the revaluation that has, or partial revaluation that has to occur. Big one happened a few years ago, and then the cleanup will have to happen as part of this year. And I think Jim's begun that process.
Well, it looks like we've already paid that.
We've already paid it. Yep. So it'll be part of the next budget, the billing cycle for April 1st. Road capital projects. And this is our capital reserve fund. It's onto 2 pages now. We have about 900,000 in it. We've only spent 154 this year on the reconstruction of Station Road. There are, and I've called this out in our, we're got some cash in there to cover additional expenses if we have them related to the roads. So now looking back, potentially could have covered some of the Lynch Road initial repairs out of this fund rather than having to do the town meeting approach, but it was a good exercise anyway.
So is this when, assuming the bridge on Lynch Road happens, we'll take funds out of this to,
No, what I intend to have happen is the feds pay us ahead of upfront. or help
Oh,
us
okay,
cover
I was
costs
under the-
upfront for the big project.
Okay.
Some of the smaller stuff like the engineering and things could potentially come out here.
Oh,
and cover.
okay.
They'll pay us up front.
They might, yeah.
I've
And
never had the feds pay me upfront, you know, all the federal projects I've done, you have to foot the
wait,
bill
wait,
and they
wait,
reimburse.
and wait.
So
I don't want to get to a point where we have to go bond for this. So I'm trying to figure out how to make it work. There's additional money through the state DOT right now for about 200,000 of it as well. So, I don't know, we'll play it out, but yeah, either I'll be asking you to ask the town to, levy that funds or move unassigned fund balance that you have, even though we'll be below our threshold we want to be just to get the project through. We'll see. That's far enough out. But I was just mentioning, like, we've only done one of the 3 projects so far for this year of capital road projects. And that's the Station Road repaid. I don't ask me what the other 2 are off the top of my head, but we do annually look at trying to do one phase of each of 3 projects.
It's Island Road, or
Island Road,
Second. I don't know what the first, what his
First one was ditching and, the tree cutting.
Yeah,
we did that last.
yeah, that
Yeah.
was already done.
Veterans Park Reserve Fund. Was funded in 92. Apparently the park's owned by the state of Maine, so. And we got about $6,000 in there. I'm not entirely sure. Oh, we bought some flags this year.
Wow. The
What?
benches that are over there, those 2 new benches are supposed to come out of here.
Okay,
Don't know where they ended up, because we did buy 2 new benches for over there. And
you mean the ones that are in the basement right now?
no,
Oh.
the benches that are in the park. The actual benches that are there on either side of the flagpole. And the flag, I hate to go chasing down $69, but the flag I believe was purchased, and then did the fire department, do you know, or somebody, Tom's like, somebody put a flag up on that flagpole because the one up there was really tattered, and I think Alan Ray went out and bought one, not knowing that somebody else saw that and replaced it. So he took that one back. So we should have had a credit. It's like $69, but still. So I don't think that flag was actually purchased, or it was purchased and returned. Flaggate. But the benches, that company was wonky that we dealt with the benches. I don't know if you're gonna find one or two charges. They sent one, they didn't send the other one, then we called for the second one, and I don't know if they charged us for a second one, so.
Maybe you got some creative park benches or creative office solutions.
No, it was not.
So that's what I have for reserve
Okay.
funds. So it's a starting place. I'll look to amend those elements of it, but I do hope to draft some purposes for you to consider as part of the budget process.
Love it.
That's
Good.
good. It's fine. It's good to see what's in them finally.
Yep.
And what's been coming out of them even more.
Or what hasn't.
Yeah,
Yeah.
or what hasn't, yeah. Well, it's good to get that, like the ARPA money stuff cleared up.
I mean, I
Keep
guess
it.
if we looked at our buildings reserve and we did what Tor was talking about and just said, these are the projects we want to do, here are the prices for them. And we kept them in that reserve account line, we probably have enough money in what we have in there right now to pay for any of the projects that we're gonna be looking at this year, and we don't have to raise taxes.
Right.
Which would be awesome.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, that's my
And-
thought.
And then and I think that's the idea is that the money that's just sitting there doing nothing is not really helping anybody.
Or you keep throwing 50,000 in, not knowing what it's gonna be spent.
And so I think again, and just having it and again, figuring out a way to have what that project costs so that when we're planning for the future.
Yep.
We can see what these projects actually cost. So,
As long as we're not planning too far in the future, as we all know,
right,
the way prices are.
right, right. Oh, they'll probably go down.
Right.
All right, then moving on to D, board and committee membership. This made me sad.
Yeah, I mean, so what we looked around through first was our Trio database for what I assume are the boards and committees. And then I looked on the website and noticed there might be a few others. And then I noticed our ordinances talk about some. And so from that, I've created this document, which I think is the full list of boards and committees. The ad hoc preservation. So what I tried to do is say, what was it governed by? And then where can you find it on the web? And they're all links. So.
It dropped down to two,
Yeah.
there's one
you're
above.
missing the LY.
Oh, you're right. I did put the wrong link in. So the Alewife committee, I don't even know how it's governed. And
No
I
one does.
found their website. Well, so
That's-
Jim and I are working on, and I have a draft interlocal agreement for him and I to review this week and hopefully.
Let me know when.
Okay. Yeah, I emailed them this morning, so.
Okay.
We're close to actually making this a little more concrete,
Mm.
so.
Well, and then we'll have to talk to Nobleboro and
Yep.
get their buy-in.
Yep.
See what they like
You can
about
have a
it.
committee of one.
Well, he's on the committee.
He's on the larger committee, so I think it's more like we have a representative from Newcastle who participates with their,
So we don't have a
Committee?
Newcastle committee. We have a member. on
No.
the committee.
and
Right.
that's what I have in the Trio database, and that's all I have in the Trio database. So, I'm looking for some help filling in the gaps here about what these are or what you want them to be.
And this one probably should have two people.
Sure.
Mhm.
I don't know if it did initially or not, but
How many people are on that?
I'd love to ask Jim. I don't know. I think Nobleboro has more for sure than one. And then the rest is made up of the fish ladder committee.
Okay. What's the difference between LF committee and the fish committee?
No, splitting hairs.
Okay.
It's the same thing.
All right, second one was the Ad hoc Historic Preservation Committee, which was a decision by the select board, created and authorized this. In January of 2023. You called it an ad hoc, and for me, there's an end date typically, or a decision about when that ceases to exist. But I know we're gonna continue to review it, or now it's for the select board to consider and workshop and figure out what to do next on, so
So I think we're, just speaking for that committee, I think we kind of left, where we left it leading up to the public hearing process was that the committee was going to stay idle until we heard further direction from the select board.
Okay.
So, so there's nothing happening with this committee, but I think, you know, it hasn't been ended, let's say, formally
Disbanded.
disbanded. So,
Okay.
So yeah,
It's there for if and when needed.
because I think the ordinance itself is still up in the air. I think this committee should stay in place until we have clear direction on what the ordinance is going to do.
Okay. The next one was the Board of Appeals. I'm gonna butcher his last name, Mr. D. Azevedo. He did call back in July and say, hey, my term expired. That's what triggered my, like, I should probably look into this someday. Here we are 6 months later.
Mhm.
And said he would like to be reappointed, but that's up to you guys.
So do we just put that on the agenda for like? the
If
next
you're
meeting?
interested in having him reappointed, that's
If he's willing, let's do
okay.
it.
And this is governed by your core zoning code.
Mhm.
Board of Appeals is just like the planning board. They're on the same page.
Mhm.
Get out there. Who's on it? How many people are on it? Not who's on, how many people are on it and their roles and responsibilities. These are the easier ones to understand because it's written in our code. Or ordinance. Have a broadband committee or had a broadband committee. I don't know what was how it was governed. I couldn't find meeting minutes or decisions. But it is on our website, so I put it there, and I have met several of the members who have served on it because we attended a meeting Tidewater a few months ago.
That was an ad hoc.
Yeah.
Yeah. and
Oh,
we-
Thomas is on, so
Yeah.
maybe you know more than I. You definitely know
You
more than
know.
I do.
Well, it started before I was on it,
Yeah.
but
it
I
started-
believe it was an ad hoc, because this one references joint with Damascotta, which was from
Right.
even before that.
Right.
yeah, This probably goes back to 21.
That was part of our hazing process. We stuck Tom on that committee. We're like, there you go. You do broadband.
But I don't know. Do we need it now? Are they doing anything?
Well, I've been roped into a few conversations with Tidewater since all this federal money started showing up. And now it's just a matter of which one is going to, stretch the dollars the farthest. And so they're trying to play that game of go through the state to get to the federal money or go directly to the federal government to get the federal money. And that's the game they're playing. Plan is to do the work they need to starting in January. I mean, they're already engineering it right now. Plan is to get launched in January with getting internet to providers. I don't know if you just leave it on the books until that actually happens or what.
No, because the idea with the broadband committee was that it was,
Mission
doing-
was to find funding.
well, they were doing research on different things and looking at, they recommended a vendor to talk to that we ended up talking to, so as the board. It became a board discussion, so.
Not since we had a meeting with Tidewater back
September.
September,
Mm.
but
Is-
that was going over rollout pretty much, like where they stood in the grant process. They've already been awarded and everything like that, but
So there's really no role for any people, volunteers at this point?
except for furthering
there you go.
underserved, the underserved population, but you kind of don't know where that's gonna be until after this first stage, tier, whatever project happens. Cause they're gonna try to stretch the money as far as they can too, because they wanna reach as many as people as they can to try to gain more customers.
So maybe leave it on the books now and we will see if there's a role that they can play to help.
Well, would it
us.
be identifying It
the
might,
underserved
They're identified.
That's what it would
members,
be.
I mean,
It would
that's
have
what
to-
it would have to
become,
come after we see what happens,
After the infrastructure.
after
is in
the new infrastructure is built. So it might be just something that if there's a need in 2 years, people find that there's an underserved population, get a band back together kind of thing. I don't know. That's where I see it.
Might be a cover band at that.
Just an idea. I think maybe Lincoln County Planning has some insight on this. I don't know. We should talk to
Role going.
Emily. I mean, yeah, I mean, David Levesque was, I think, the chair of this committee
Mhm.
for the time it was in process. But other than seeing what Dave knows, I would probably reach out to Emily Raby and see what Lincoln County Planning.
Unless there's any role that they can play in helping, and there supposedly was going to be some money available for helping people who couldn't afford connectivity, or something like that. I don't know.
Well, so it might be redefining scope.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna try to find the original proclamation that created this.
21,
21.
1921, 2021.
1921.
It's been around for a long time. We were
back when it was steam
prophetic.
powered.
Before broadband existed.
Oh, yeah, for electricity practically. But it's not with Demascata.
Yeah. Okay.
Finance committee is the one that made me sad.
I mean, this is what was in the,
Yep.
which was when trio. That's not necessarily accurate because, I mean, we looked through the oaths of office too.
Where those are missing, you guys can just call somebody and say, hey, come on in.
Yeah. But I mean, but I don't know if like an action was taken by the select board to appoint somebody. And then that action never got into the database. Or the action happened, but never an oath of office. That's different. Oath of office. Even if they got the oath, even if they got the approval, I might or might not have that oath. That's all. My issue is if the select board made a decision about appointing somebody and it didn't get into the database, I don't.
So where are we with the finance committee? Because I thought.
Right, we had a
talked
conversation about this
Yeah.
last meeting.
Appealing it.
Repealing it.
Yeah, I mean, we want to do that. Yeah.
Just giving you the information I have.
Yeah, I got
Yeah.
it.
You asked me the other day, who's on it? Mr. Mills is still the only one who has a term that hasn't expired.
I don't.
Oh, Ben, do you feel like you've been slighted here?
No, I'm not on that.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I don't have,
I don't really care. It's going away.
That's.
Well, we had talked
Oh,
about
yeah, you're not even on.
trying to
Yeah.
find to
Yeah.
ask people if they wanted to.
seeing if anybody was interested in
interested.
serving on it, but also
At what
as a
capacity?
way to look over the town's investment portfolio and see if maybe that could be.
I just haven't had a chance to call these folks.
So we've got one
One-
volunteer. I
one-
knew somebody would come up. But also I think probably John Mills would be maybe a good person to look into that as well. I think that's his background, so. Yeah, if I'm not mistaken from the couple of conversations I've had with him.
Her term expired. But, I mean, do you have any strong feelings on having a finance committee or not having a finance committee? It's kind of redundant from the way we've done the budget in the last couple of years, certainly. So I haven't been around to see the finance committee in action.
Yes, it's a good question. It's a great question. The finance committee came out of what was then the budget committee. This is going back to a long. And
Oh,
at that
and
time, there was a very. strong-
Microphone.
What?
Microphone.
Oh, I have to do this?
Yeah, sorry.
I mean, back then there was a very strong sentiment that there should be basically a non-elected civilian committee with some sort of input on budget and finance matters. But membership dropped off over the years. It's been restructured 3 times since it made the switch from a budget committee to a finance committee. Is it absolutely needed? No. However, I don't know what the general sentiment is amongst residents of Newcastle about wanting to maintain some sort of non-elected oversight of finances. So you may run into some folks coming out of the woodwork when you ask to repeal it.
Yeah, but fair enough. What we talked about last time was that, thanks for that little history update with budget to finance. But we also went from administrator to town manager form of government. And the discussion last meeting was, well, now that we have a town manager, they assume these, the role of assembling a budget for us. So
yeah, I don't think it was. So I remember the finance committee when the finance committee would actually meet at least quarterly and independent of the select board.
Yeah.
And go over the quarterlies. They would also review the audit independently. And then they would be directly involved through all the stages of the budget process. And our old town reports always showed, the selectmen recommend, the finance committee recommend. And then that was consolidated after a while because it just, for various reasons, there just wasn't enough people. For the last, I don't know, several years, it was just basically Eva and myself sort of representing the finance committee. So again, I don't know that it's strictly necessary the way that we do it, that we have one.
Or could they fill a slightly altered role? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, they used to have a really tight understanding of the investment accounts, the cemetery investment accounts, and I mean, used to be able to rattle those numbers off. And I don't even know the last time anyone looked at those. Honestly,
I just did.
You just did
3 weeks ago.
so that's probably the first time in at least 5 years.
Yeah.
So yeah, not good. Yeah. So that was the purpose of it. Again, I don't know. We'll see what happens. I don't know how I personally feel about it. I'll be honest with you. The budget process has simplified since not having a strong finance committee. Take that however you want.
We'll think about it, I guess.
all I know is what I know.
Right.
And my experience with the select board is not involved the finance committee other than Ben and Eva showing up at the last couple meetings, maybe a few meetings, and kind of stating an opinion, which usually was accepting what the select board had done and the town manager, with the exception of a comment about an over bloated fund balance and our overlay was too much, which I think we corrected in this last year.
Yep. Yep.
So
We
hate to take the
hear
wind
you.
out of your sails, but but the harping actually paid off. So
So maybe it does serve a purpose to
maybe
have
that's sort of business.
somebody in that role.
Although to be fair, I had no idea that that was his issue, and I still came in with a lower overlay. So
I told you about it, but I haven't. The only other thing I guess I would say is that the benefit I think to having Eva and myself around the last couple of years wasn't really oversight. It was just to provide historical context.
Yep.
No, absolutely.
She's been on the finance committee. I don't even know how long, since 04, 05, something like that. So, or she had been, so.
And so she was in Damascata until the late 90s, right?
No.
Sorry.
No, it's all right. Yeah. It wasn't long after they moved over here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Alright.
Anyway.
So we still don't know who's to do that. Yeah.
Just gotta figure out how to word it, like either if you go to repeal it and it gets voted down, I still have a pretty outdated finance committee document.
Right.
So I either do we modify it and try to run with it for a year and then see how it goes and then come back and try to repeal it later? Possible.
Is there a way to make people that vote against repealing it serve on
That was going through my mind
Is there
too.
some,
Yeah.
Yeah, if you vote.
some
yes.
mechanism that we can?
I'm not gonna bring any change. I'm not gonna bring the changes forward or the repeal requests out anytime soon. So I'm gonna have a conversation with the folks that are on this list and see if anybody's still interested in.
Okay.
And apparently I'm gonna chase down do you recall when you got appointed by the select board? Back to the finance committee? How long ago that was?
Yeah.
Great. That's a lot of meeting minutes to look through to find that. All right. That's all right.
We haven't done any appointments in this calendar year.
Okay.
Last year, I was gonna say, last year, maybe we put a couple people on the planning board. But there has not been a
Yeah,
lot.
usually we used to get a big list.
Yeah,
Trying to probably appointments and-
we haven't.
For the finance committee, all the workshop or, advertise it.
Yeah.
Ahead of time, so that you take the temperature.
Yeah.
Before you propose repealing it. And run into a brick wall.
You mean help people get informed about the issue before bringing it to a special town meeting?
And maybe no one will be interested, and maybe no one will come, and there you go, that's an answer in and of itself, so.
Yeah. All right.
We want people to, sign up for it. And put the ad in the paper.
On our investments right now?
Oh my
Good
gosh.
idea.
Yeah.
Great idea. I'll get torches and pitchforks. Why haven't you been monitoring this? Okay. Next in our database is our Great Salt Bay Sanitary District. I know that Alan Ray has just stepped off that board, and from what I learned from their office manager, their board appoints the person until the next election. This is an elected position, apparently.
Yes, it is.
So these are elected positions.
So we need to find somebody to run for that.
I'll run.
You don't have enough to do?
No, I haven't.
He's gonna get
Okay.
off the finance committee because it's gonna get disbanded, so. That's right, he'll have free time.
Something just.
I'm sorry, was Alan Ray, he resigned?
He just resigned, last month or the month before.
He's been
Okay.
on it for quite a long time, I think.
Yep.
So, good, thank you, Ben.
I couldn't find a link to their governing documents or anything, so that's why it's got question marks there, but they are a separate quasi municipal agency, so they have their own rules and bylaws. And obviously elected officials from Damascotta and Newcastle. One more, maybe part of Noblesboro. Michael knows, he's been to their board meetings. Harbor Committee, and this is a joint with Damascotta. It's governed by our harbor master or harbor management ordinance. I have a handful, so obviously you're telling me you guys haven't appointed anybody in a while, then I probably am accurate to say that we need to reappoint a handful of people to this committee.
Mhm.
Yep.
Okay.
You could check with, did we appoint somebody to the harbor committee? I want to say it was 2 years ago.
I had a conversation with somebody that might be interested in serving on that if we're looking for residents to serve on it.
Yeah. But good, give Kevin that name.
Yep.
Yeah.
Harriet Bird, I don't know how this one's governed. It is on our website, and it is both in Trio and on our website. There are no terms associated with any of it. That's all.
Not bad.
Obviously.
Yeah.
Just haven't had a chance to.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I noticed in here, it said to schedule, call Edna Verney, not the town office. So
God love her. Historical Society,
So I'll make this easy for you. The
Yeah.
town has historically appointed one of the board members,
okay.
and it's been Arlene. I don't know. I think she was just, well, the select board did not reappoint her. And her term, I believe, was up last year. At her age, I don't know what she wants to do, but I think I'm going to find out on Thursday, so I will let you know.
Okay.
We have a meeting on Thursday.
Okay.
And otherwise, this list of people is like 60% wrong, 50% wrong. But it's not a responsibility of the town. So if you want an updated list, I can give it to you, but
Yeah,
It
I
doesn't-
mean, we have their contact information in the database in case something comes up and we need to get hold of you guys.
okay, then I'll give you,
There's value there.
I'll give you a cleaned up list after the elections on Thursday.
Wonderful. Thank you, Karen.
Are you on that? You're on the committee
Yeah.
still?
Yep.
And the Veterans Park Committee, I couldn't find anything other than having some information in the TRIO database and 3 oaths of office. Any idea?
Expired.
I think they're annual appointments, but they haven't been annually appointed to it since 2020.
It was all just 1 year.
Yep.
19.
That was the last time we tried to do that.
There's a committee of volunteers that Betsy runs.
Betsy Evans?
Yeah, she emails people. I'm on the email list, so we go clean up the park a number of times a year. We mulch, we cut down stuff, but if there's no meetings, there's nothing formal. Betsy's the one to talk to, though. She
Okay,
arranges most everything.
I'll connect with Betsy. All right, I think that's. Oh, planning
Planning
board. You recently had a member resign, so I still hoping somebody has an idea of another couple of planning board members. So they can have alternates. So if the member is unavailable, the alternate could step in.
So what's, Peter and Kevin don't have terms dates.
No idea. And they don't have oaths filled out. So I need to get a hold of them to get them in to do so. It's expired in TRIO, so you need to reappoint Kevin and Peter. And then you have some vacancies.
Should we advertise for, at least on the website, like right on the front? I don't know if it does any good in the paper or not, but at least on the website, we can put that we're looking for.
Well, probably putting it in the paper seems like it might reach more people because somebody might be more likely to pick up the paper than be on the town website.
Unless if you read that part of the newspaper where all the jobs and the town
yeah.
stuff, I don't. My husband does.
Well, if he's looking to join a board,
I'll mention.
Can I just say one thing about the planning board did discuss the idea of having alternates. And we kind of decided that what the code actually says is the planning board shall consist of at least 5 members. It doesn't actually say anything about alternates. And we were like, well, should we have alternates or not? And we kind of landed on, we'd rather just have engaged members. The idea of having an alternate is someone who doesn't vote most of the time unless someone else can't make the meeting. We have a dedicated for the folks that are there. We're there every meeting, so.
So you guys prefer 5, just stick with the 5.
5 or 7 or 9.
Oh, just
An odd
members.
number, just members, yeah. We don't need to alter the code to have alternates. So I don't want to advertise as For alternates, we don't want.
Just members, we need a couple members.
Yeah.
But
One
or three.
Two wouldn't do?
or five. I mean, an odd number would be nice.
Yeah, okay.
Fish. Robert's on the website, but not in Trio. So I don't have any information on.
Well, it looks like 3-year terms, so he's either done and need to be reappointed, that it
Just my thought.
expired. So let's see if he wants to continue. We'll appoint him now for ending in 26. That would be perfect.
Oh, school committee, those are elected positions. Those are up to date. Okay, that was that.
Nice.
Next is the update on recent committee. So I'm shout out to Rufus for thinking of this. There's been quite a few community meetings or that have occurred without really you guys having a chance to. I know that some of us attended a couple, but not all of them. In fact, none of us attended the planning board workshop. So I'm really happy that our planner and the chair of the planning board are here, because they can fill us in on that workshop. But the other two were the aquaculture meeting and the Newcastle School Committee meeting. I'll leave it to you, Madam Chair.
Do you want to do a quick summary or?
It just seemed like at the end of our last meeting, there was.
I said, stop talking business.
Stop talking business.
Meeting.
Well, yeah,
Aquaculture?
just sure, the aquaculture is the first one on the agenda, so, yeah. It was a meeting of sort of all the interested parties. Or the majority of the interested parties, I guess. It was attended by state representatives, and a lot of the oyster farmers were there, contingent of, the soft shell clammers were there. DMR was there. There were some other acronyms that I'm not gonna try and remember. But yeah, it seemed like a productive meeting. There's a lot of concern. There's a lot of animosity, which I didn't realize. And
animosity towards what?
well, at least the people in attendance, the clammers tend
all
to
from the Madomic
from
River.
Madomic, the Madomic River, right? There was Waldeboro was represented, Newcastle, Damascus, Bremen, Bristol, South Bristol. But yeah, the Madomic River community is very against oyster farming on their river.
They said they wanted to keep it pristine, unlike the Damascus River.
Yeah, and there's some blame. The clamming community blames the oyster community for the I guess the decline in population of the clams, which none of the scientists there could sort of correlate. I don't think anyhow. There was a lot of animosity there, so that was interesting to see.
Nobody mentioned there have been oysters in the Damascus River for thousands of years.
Yes. Right, and clams.
And now green crabs.
Yes.
There was, definitely. But even the people with the Damascus River interests wanted to make sure that when are we going to know when we have enough?
Right. What is capacity? What does that look like? How many of these leases are there going to be on the river? Is anybody, sort of monitoring that? The fire chiefs of both Damascus and Newcastle were there, just talking about the navigational hazards that the oyster farms present
at night.
at night
Particularly, yeah.
particularly. Trying to think if there
They,
were-
they said the acreage that was involved in farming, if you took all of the actual surface stuff and squished it together, it's about 3 acres and that's it. They don't fill their acreage with,
Right, their lease size
rotate.
versus what
Mhm.
they actually have in the water are very different so that they can rotate
Around.
locations.
Yeah.
Um,
But the takeaway though, partly is communication seems to be an issue.
Mhm.
Um, and I think people on the Damascotta River just want to make sure we don't go crazy. And people out of Waldeboro want none of it. So I mean, that
At least the
was my
people that
takeaway.
were
We're
at that
there,
meeting.
but then we're there. Yes, absolutely. The ones that were there.
And I don't know, but there might be the, I don't know if the Damascotta Fire Chief was angling for a new boat or not. That, just keep that in mind. Yeah. I don't know, maybe you have some insight on that, but
No, they've got a good boat.
Yeah.
Was the assumption, is there an assumption that there's a request of, the local town officials to address this in any way?
no,
Okay.
no, it was. Yeah, I mean, I think for us, it was more of a, let's see what's going on in that part of town,
Okay.
essentially, because it is obviously a draw to the town.
It employs a lot of people.
Yeah.
It's responsible for a lot of revenue and.
Yeah. Obviously, it's an important.
Yeah.
Important part of our community, so just to be aware of what's going on.
Okay.
And I think, isn't it outside of the intertidal zone?
Yeah.
It's state jurisdiction anyway.
It is all
So-
state jurisdiction.
So you really don't have this, the towns don't have a say in.
No.
Beyond that zone, so.
And the reason I wanted to bring that piece of it up is I've been in towns where, there's this effort to have a moratorium on aquaculture when really it's
a state.
It's a state issue and it's just not necessarily healthy use of our time.
Well, and I think that's what Waldeboro has attempted to do is impose a moratorium.
South Bristol too.
Yeah.
South Bristol as well.
Yeah, they did.
So that's
Legally, I don't know how that
I
stands.
don't know what that, yeah, I don't know how you.
It just might signal to some business that not great to do business here.
I guess my only question is about the Shellfish Committee. We have a committee. I don't actually know what the Shellfish Committee does.
You can read the ordinance. It does need to be cleaned up, but you can read the ordinance.
Anyway, it would be nice, I think.
Haven't done it yet.
Yeah,
Wait a
I mean,
minute.
it would be nice to, at some point during the year, have sort of a Heather or Sandy or the other person just come to a meeting and just update us on what they're talking about and
Yeah.
what what they do there.
Yeah.
It would be nice.
I think they, because it's, I guess Damascotta holds that ordinance. Just went to a meeting maybe a month ago. That was the Shellfish Committee meeting, and it was a lot of what you heard at the Coastal Rivers meeting. And I think they have from what I understand, they used to just meet once a year, and it was not very controversial. It's become more so, and I think they have their annual meeting or a meeting coming up this month or next month, maybe. So
It's probably on the Damascotta website.
it should be. I'm sure I can find that information for you, though. It's not there. So
The AOS meeting.
let's see.
Yeah.
So
Rufus and I were the two that attended that one.
Thomas, there were, I guess, a number of us were at a meeting at Coastal Rivers with the superintendent.
The 4 of us.
4 of us were there. Okay. This was basically a furtherance of that, where the school committees actually voted to
Move forward
move
with
forward.
a different form of the same organization,
Yeah, there was
different title.
the superintendent put or the office, I guess, central office put for two potential ways, two doors that we could go through. One was to combine Noblesboro, Bristol, South Bristol, Great Salt Bay into one middle school at the Great Salt Bay School building, and then do K through 4, I guess, sort of at the other elementary schools. Noblesboro, the evening before the meeting that we were at, voted against that, so that closed that door. So what was decided on is that Great Salt Bay remains intact, but now becomes a K through 12 committee to, lessen the number of budgets, essentially. I think.
Nice
that's
summary. Yeah,
what
that's
it
pretty
does.
close to it. Yeah.
And then it's left up to Bristol, South Bristol as to whether or not they want to remain separate or combine. So there's nothing that we need to do as a board, but it will be coming before voters eventually. I think the timeline is a little,
I think that's for probably next November.
yeah.
But essentially they're just changing at the administrative level. They're no longer going to be called an AOS. It's going to be a different acronym. And it will mean a substantial greater amount of money coming to us from the state, about $600,000 by doing this shift. So it's a win-win no matter what.
And
it doesn't really
lessens the
change.
administrative tasks of the
Right.
central office.
Right. They don't have to go to as many committee meetings. They
Yes.
still have to go to quite a few or board meeting. My only other thought on that was the door number 1 was, they talked about it and what the option was there, but they didn't make any decision on it because Noblesboro had
Right.
bailed out last.
Everybody would have had to opt in for it to be filed. So
So the $600,000 potential additional money coming in is just going to go to the GSB.
To this new larger K through 12 program. But
Right,
that'd be
just-
basically K through 8.
It's just Newcastle, Bremen, and Damascata.
Damascata, Newcastle, Bremen, and if the other two opt
Bristol,
in,
South Bristol.
can opt in.
Mhm.
But
If they-
it would
okay.
split. That 600,000 essentially would either offset taxes for all towns, or they'd be able to take care of some of the programming needs they have. I don't know what they'll do with money. That's up to the school.
And then I guess the planning, is there anything that came out of the planning?
Oh, we haven't knocked down,
Thing?
dragged them out. It was, we're all. That was really.
Okay.
Anyone show up?
Yeah, a couple people.
Good.
Basically, it was just talking about, Michael had done a nice presentation about changes, edits to basically bring our shoreline zoning code into compliance with chapter 1000. It's really the short and sweet of it.
Chapter 1000 of the state.
State mandated changes to shoreline zoning that we just have to do. So we've got a couple of options. We discussed those. We'll be doing it, putting it forward.
Is this a non-controversial change?
It really shouldn't be. It really shouldn't be. Yeah. The biggest thing I think is the management and enforcement of timber harvesting in the shoreland zone. The state has given us options, and we've chosen to recommend that the state manage and enforce timber harvesting entirely
Thank
in the
you.
shoreland zone, which is what the vast majority of other municipalities in the state are doing. Since anytime there is timber harvesting in the shoreland zone, they're involved anyway.
Mhm.
It seems a little redundant and unnecessary for us to try and manage it locally, since they're really gonna do it anyway. So that's the big.
All right, then does that bring us to unfinished business? Yes. Personnel policy. That's an easy one. Made our changes. We got the clean copy.
You do.
It's been properly
Notified to staff.
notified. So if there's no discussion on it now, I guess we can move to
I
approve
move
the
to
updates
approve the updates.
to the personnel policy
Yeah.
effective January 1st, 2024.
Yeah.
Seconded. Any other discussion on it? All right, all in favor? So it's 5-0. All right, Kevin, then I have to read this whole thing.
Yes, you do.
This whole thing has to be into the motion, huh?
Maybe just say it, started in as written. I don't know. Yes, please read it. Save me from getting in trouble with the health trust.
Okay, so the domestic partnership coverage, we've been over that and we've read all of the documentation that goes with it. Does anybody have anything else you want to talk about on the domestic partnership coverage? Nope. All right, then, bear with me. Do I have a motion to, effective January 1st, 2024, have the town of Newcastle amend its personnel policy benefits to allow any employee who is eligible to enroll in the employer benefits the option of enrolling a domestic partner? Any employee who wishes to add a domestic partner will be advised of the requirements set forth in the domestic partner affidavit to add said partner. Furthermore, said employee has been advised that there could be tax implications for adding a domestic partner. The domestic partner of an employee shall be a life partner of either the same sex or opposite sex of the employee, not legally married or separated to either the employee or anyone else, at least 18 years of age and mentally competent to consent to contract, are each other's domestic partners and intend to remain so indefinitely, have been each other's domestic partner for at least 12 months prior to the date of the signed affidavit, are not related by blood to a degree of closeness that would prohibit marriage in the state of Maine, are jointly responsible for each other's common welfare, shared financial obligations, and share their primary residence.
So moved.
Moved by Tor, do I have a second? By Rufus. Yep.
Could you read that again?
Kind of zoned out.
It's amazing that we have to read all that in there. All right. There's no other discussion. All in favor? All right, passes 5-0. Where are we here? Oh, the finance committee ordinance. I guess we kind of already talked about that, but
We did, and you can just not take action tonight. Can see if I can find, or you can schedule a public hearing to amend the finance committee document that we,
amend it. I'm gonna figure out what we're gonna amend it to, I guess, first.
I gave you a copy of the red line. Last
Oh,
meeting.
that's right. The finance committee.
I had said two options.
Yes.
Appeal it or modify it this way and
Mm.
make it a little easier for me to work with the finance committee. So it isn't necessarily you at first, it's me working with them and bringing things to you as we delve into it. I can pull it up.
Why don't you reach out to some of the members and see if there's any interest?
Yeah.
Before we.
Yeah, you don't have to do anything tonight on it. You can
Yeah.
always so table it.
Yeah.
All right.
9:23.
Table
Oh,
it.
yeah, let's table it then until sometime after the new year. In January, maybe. Do we need to vote on that?
No?
Cool. All right.
Oh, no, motion to table. Yeah, take a vote on it.
Take a vote on it. Okay, do I have a motion to table it until sometime in the new
January.
year?
January 8th.
So moved.
No, second. All right, all in favor? Sure. 5-0.
Okay, one item down, another item down.
And I won't be here January 8th. All right, so then moving on to town manager report.
I met with the Sheepscot Village folks a couple weeks ago just to talk about streetlights and a few other items that they had concerns about or issues with. I just think better open lines of communication are important with our residents, and so I created a Sheepscot resident email listserv so I can make sure they get information and are aware of what's going on. In terms of developing basically a process for how I deal with streetlights when they come to my office for streetlight requests to change them, increase the light, decrease the light, turn it off, turn it on. So I'm working through that right now. And they're providing me some feedback. So it's been helpful. And the other item that's really kind of standing out there right now is the DOT's project on Main and Mills. I know Rufus really struggled to get here because of all that
Yeah.
traffic. I don't think they were working today because of the weather this
rain.
morning and or the potential for the weather today. They'll be back at it. I'm pretty sure they're done or they will be done after tomorrow on Main Street. So they won't have needing flaggers there anymore. It'll all just be on Mills. Is what I've been told by their resident inspector. And a reminder, this is not town project. This is a state project. I just happen to insert myself so that I can get information to the schools and get information to the big employers as well as the select. So I know they wanted to be done. Their initial Gantt chart had them being done before the end of November. And here we are a couple weeks into December, and it's been a challenge. They've run in
charge did not read those either. He didn't know what the hell was going on. He's like, sure, I can do this.
No, they actually ran into a lot of underground utilities that were never on any maps. So they didn't even know they were there until they started digging, and then they had to determine whether or not it was live or in use before they could either remove it or work around it. So it did slow their process down quite a bit, and it has been a nightmare trying to get residents into the town hall and just people around town. So bear with them. They will get it done, but please stop blaming the town office.
At least they waited to do it until after that road had been paved.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, no.
Right.
So that stretch of it, yeah, that was a point of contention with our road commissioner.
Yeah.
Because he's the one that paved it, and he told the state, like, why don't you wait till you're done with all these projects before you finish this? And so the final paving won't happen till the spring.
Okay.
State DOT doesn't. They have more stringent requirements for hot top when it goes down. Even if they're going to put in a temporary patch where they've dug up, that'll get us through the winter. But I did ask them for that because, there's a lot of kids that walk through there after school, and I just don't want it to be a muddy, dirty mess and not be able to plow it or snow blow it or shovel it if that's the case. So they will be putting some hot top down, but it'll be a temporary job until next spring when the temperatures are above 50 degrees during the day, when DOT says that's when you can pave. So that's the real holdup, is temperatures are just getting too cold for them to pave, at least state requirements. Those are the two big ones. I have a whole bunch of other agenda items. You can read it at your leisure. I'll be bringing them up in the new year. But between now and then, it gives me enough time to actually work on them and have them ready to go for you.
Good. All right, the warrant. Let's see, oh, wait, we don't have a total.
Oh, it's on the front page. I'm sorry, I didn't.
On the top of the agenda.
Got an old agenda, sorry, back up there.
229.
229, 800,
41 cents.
$800.41. All right, do I have a motion to approve the warrant, the 12th warrant for $229,800.41?
Second.
Seconded by Tom. All right, any discussion on this? I had just one little thing, the cemetery mapping expense. That probably, if we can figure out how the devil to do it, should be charged to the Sheep's Cemetery Perpetual Care Fund.
I talked to Michelle about it, and we were gonna move that money at a later date.
Okay.
It's just a journal entry to do it.
Okay, I mean, we haven't spent any money on the cemeteries at this point. I'm hoping that we will be able to, but I don't know if it'll be in fiscal year, the next fiscal year, whatever that is. I've got a quasi commitment from somebody to do some work on the cemeteries next summer for a couple days anyway. Okay, no other discussion? All right, then all in favor, budget warrant. All right, passes 5-0. I think we're good, yeah.
We have executive session?
Nope, no executive session.
Yes,
Do we?
we do.
We do.
Yeah.
Oh, wait a minute. Let me go back up to the real agenda. I've got the old one. All right, then do I have a motion to go into executive session under 1 MRSA section 4056A personnel?
So
Second.
Seconded by Tom. All in favor? 5-0. Yay.
No.